All right, all right. Let me see. Let me see. Make sure my mic is working. Let me go ahead and turn up my microphone. I hope my mic is working. All right. All right. Okay. Okay. So let's go ahead and talk about this. So now you guys see the title. And yes, I am still stuck on the subject about F the street movement. I am. I am still stuck on that for multiple reasons. Because if we really want to get into it, right? If we really want to get into it, let's talk about how the hood, the streets, the block has been robbed of its resources. Let's get into it. And I want to shout out to everybody for making it to this new year 2026. But yeah, I want to really talk about this because when we sit there and get stuck on this concept about F the street, right? We won't even break down that there is more to the issues than just the damn street. It's so easy to say that crime happens in the hood, which it does. But nobody look in these other areas, such as the suburbs, where most of the crimes are pretty much taking place, as quiet as it's kept. As quiet as it's kept. The hood, the street has been robbed of its resources. And how has it been robbed of its resources? Well, it's been robbed through capitalism. And we can talk about environmental racism. We can also look at gentrification. Not only gentrification took place, but also the impact of being displaced from the community. And also economic exploitation. We can get into that. So when people want to talk about how bad the hood is, well, we have to look at the beginning of it. We got to look at the origin of how the hood became so bad. What was the cause of the condition? And if people want to see progress in the hood where you don't really see the progress that you expect, you only see the progress where it benefit those who are the investors. Because investors look at it as an opportunity to buy up that area for a cheaper price. And they could put businesses, they could put condos, they could put expensive housing in those areas. And the people who do not make enough money or make livable wages, right? They will have to go elsewhere. They will have to find somewhere else to live. So when there is no money in the area, in the block or in the hood or whatever, right? Then there is no resources or there's lack of resources. So how do you expect for the environment to turn out to be when there is little to no money being invested into those areas? And we can always talk about people need to come back to the hood and take care of the hood. Yes, I agree. But once those individuals capitalize, they're not thinking about, I'm not saying everybody, but certain individuals are not thinking about coming back to their block. They're not thinking about coming back to the area where they grew up at and try to revitalize those areas. They're not thinking about it. They don't care because they want to live a lavish life. They want to go into the areas where their kids can go to better schools, right? Or some type of prestige high school or charter school, whatever, because they thinking that this is how they were supposed to live. And they often see themselves through the eyes of their children. They don't want their kids, and it's sad to speak. I mean, I'm gonna be honest. They don't want their children to know that they came from the environment from people or surrounded with people that look just like them. They don't want their kids to know that. They don't want their kids to see that, okay, the environment that I came from, which is the inner city or the ghetto, I grew up in an environment with people that look just like me. Because it brings shame to them. It brings shame and it brings guilt. So why not go into the area where there's not as many people that look just like how I am, that's from a different race or a different culture, and I can fit in with those individuals and forget about where I came from or not even think about where I came from. Now, that's not to say that people can't have better lives, right? Or want greater things in life. But to deny your environment, right, and deny your identity shows that you live with a lot of guilt and shame. So the thing is, with the whole idea that we need to give back to our hood, give back to our community, yes, I agree. But once again, everybody don't have that mentality because they look at it like this: I'm gonna capitalize off the streets. I'm gonna capitalize off the hood, and then I'm gonna get the hell on. So it's easy for those people to say, fuck the hood, fuck the streets, because I done made my money. I done capitalized off of this. Why should I even go back? I don't even care. I got what I needed. That's the attitude that these individuals will have. And then they'll go back when it benefits them. Not the benefit of the people, but when it benefits them, when it makes them look good. So the truth of the matter is, the hood has been robbed of its resources. The ghetto has been robbed of its resources from the very beginning. So most of the people that you see that lives in the inner city, that's in the streets, that's in the ghettos are the so-called minorities, which is the black and brown people. And we oftentimes represent the group of people that has been marginalized in this country. We represent those group of people, which is why sometimes I sit back and question myself, how can you have such a pride in the country that doesn't care enough about you and the ethnic group that you come from? Like, I can't really understand I mean, American is my nationality, and my ethnicity is African descent, right? But I don't see how you can fully embrace being American knowing what your ancestors have dealt with, knowing the major crisis that has been going on from the time that our people got here. And then to add insult to injury, right? There's black people right now on social media that's cheering for ICE. They think they get to tell other people to get out of their country as if they got the power, as if they got the control to do so. How can you tell other people to get out your country when you don't have control over your environment, over the community that you live in? That's the thing that kills me. You have no control over your environment. You have no control over the communities that you live in. You live in the areas where there is dilapidated housing. You work at jobs where you're not getting paid a lot of money to buy up the properties. You live in areas where you're paying rent. Majority of us, minorities, black and brown people, we are not owners of housing. Okay, we don't own houses. We don't even own a lot of business here. So if that's the case, how can you fish your mouth and tell somebody or a group of people from other countries that they're not welcome here? They need to go somewhere else. You don't have that type of power. You don't even see how your community has been so impacted by capitalism, how your community has been robbed. And we can go into it. If you want to use I can take you there. So let's go into it. Let's pull up AI real quick. Okay. So right here, it says the phrase capitalism destroys the hood critiques how capitalist systems can negatively impact marginalized urban communities, aka the hood, through issues like environmental racism, economic disinvestment, gentrification, and lack of resources, creating cycles of poverty and inequality, while proponents argue capitalism drives innovation and opportunity, leading to debates about regulation and social safety nets to balance growth with community well-being. Now let's look at it. I mentioned this before, but I'm gonna mention it again. Arguments for capitalism destroys the hood. Economic exploitation. Critics argue that capitalism often prioritizes profit over people, leading to low wages, job insecurity, a concentration of wealth that bypasses low income areas, as seen in disinvestment from inner city neighborhoods. Environmental racism. Industrial facility waste sites and pollution are disproportionately located in or near minority and low income communities, linking capitalist expansion to poor health outcomes in these areas. Gentrification and displacement. As urban areas become more desirable, rising rents and property values can push out long-term residents and small businesses, disrupting community fabric, right? Inadequate services, under investment in public schools like schools, under investment in public goods like schools, healthcare, and infrastructure in hoods create barriers to upward mobility despite the potential for business growth. Now, here's the thing. These are the things that's destroying the hood. Nobody wants to admit. Nobody wants to admit that, right? Nobody wants to admit how capitalism, I mean, some people will, but there's other who are totally oblivious to it because they focusing on the money. But they're not focusing on how the economic system is impacting the community. So as you see the title called the speculation traps, right? Why your block looks so empty? Why your block look empty right now? When you go in certain neighborhoods, why it looks so empty? Why your hood looks so empty? Why it looks like why it looks terrible? Well, here's the thing. The reason why your block looks empty because it's making a way for the investors. It's making a way for people to come and buy up the resources. It's preparing for displacement. That's why your block look empty. That's why your community is in the shape that it's in. And it's due to environmental racism. So you got black folks that want to deny these things and think that no, it's just black people being lazy. Black people don't want to do shit. Black people don't want to do anything for themselves. They don't want to pull themselves up by the bootstrap. It goes to show that they don't really understand the system. So get back to the whole point about fuck the streets. When you say fuck the streets, when you use that terminology, right? Or when people say that it's so easy because you can capitalize. Once you capitalize off the streets, of course you can have that attitude. You can have the attitude of saying, hell with this block, the hell with this community, the hell with this. Let me see. I wish I can. Okay, so I'm gonna look in the chat. Shout out to the chat. Somebody asked, "Hi Tiffany, did you ever read the book How Capitalism Underdeveloped Black America by Manny Marable?" No, I have not read the book. I have not. I heard of the book, but I have not got the chance to actually read it. And I'm glad that you brought that up. So, as a matter of fact, I could put that as a book of recommendation for people to read on. Go ahead, let me go ahead and post up the title of the book. How Capitalism Underdeveloped Black America by Manny Marble or Marbles. Problems in race, political, economics, and society. So if you guys have not gotten a chance, please get this book. Put this on your bucket list. All right. And shout out to the brother in the chat. Shout out to brother Kevin. Put it in the bucket list for you guys to read on because this is very important. If you really want to understand how capitalism underdeveloped the inner city, this is where you can go into. This is where you can read. And it's so many books out there that just not only pertain to inner city crisis, but workers' rights. Um, as far as unions are concerned. Now, people gonna talk about, well, there's folks out here glorifying violence and glorify this, that, and the other. Well, why is it being glorified? Let me tell you why it's being glorified, because of the media. Because the media glorify what's going on in the hood. For examples, when you watch movies glorify what's going on in the inner city. When you're watching your favorite shows, that shows glorification of the hood. But for the people, it's not really about glorify, it's about survival. See, people don't talk about the codes. People don't talk about the rules, the principles that's put into the streets. And why is that? Because those codes are seen as invaluable. Those codes seen as they hold no significant meaning. They hold no significant meanings to those individuals out there. So to certain people, they feel like, well, the code don't mean shit. I'm breaking the rules. This is the streets. Why the streets needs code? And these other people over here feel like, well, the streets need some form of structure, because there's certain people that are innocent and they're not in that lifestyle. They are civilians. They are just everyday folks working, trying to get home, or people that's going to school or whatnot. So there needs to be codes put in place to make sure those people over here are protected. But these people feel like, well, if the folks are in the way and they out here working, yeah, we get the fact that they are trying to survive, they are trying to gain resources or whatnot, and trying to take care of their family. But at the same time, they feel like their life is in danger. And anything go down, they gonna be in the way. They gonna get caught up. So you got one group of people over here that feels like the streets don't need any code, and these groups over here feel like, yeah, the streets does have to have a code. They need to have principles. There needs to be guidelines. And let's talk about how the hood created a lot of things that people take from it, don't give credit to, and capitalize. What people thought as being ghetto as hell, right? They take those things and they capitalize off of it. And it baffles me when, especially black folks that's in the suburbs, right? They can look down and speak down on the people in the inner city, but yet and still, you're taking the creativity from what was started by the people in the hood and using it or living it, right? Or wearing the aesthetics, taking on the ideas, taking on the lingos, as if you come from the community of those individuals. And so let's talk about Atlanta, for example, right? In Atlanta, there is a lot of classism. Oh, so what is that? What does that mean? That means that there's a lot of prejudice amongst black people that people do not really see, right? It's hidden because people are caught up in the illusion that Atlanta is the black Mecca. And it can be viewed that way because it gives more opportunity to the black people, to the blacks that are wealthy, to the blacks that are celebrities, right? But what people don't see in between, right, or people don't read in between the lines, is the whole discrimination between classes. So you got these black folks up here, right, that has a certain type of attitude towards black people down here. You're not going to ever really see the so-called upper class black folks deal with the black folks over here in the lower class community. They're not as unified as you think. There's lack of unity with between black people, middle class black folks, and black folks from the inner city. And even in the inner cities, you'll see these bougie black people, right? What I would like to call the petty bourgeoisie black folks. And you have the underclass, the ghetto black people, the underclass ghetto black folks, right? They're so divided. They're divided because the petty bourgeoisie black people or the ghetto bourgeoisies, the ghetto fabulous ones, they don't want to be seen or they don't want to be next to the underclass ghetto black people because they feel like the ghetto underclass black folks are not valuable to them. They don't represent them. Now, but here's the ironic part about it. When it comes down to the resources, or if they need something, they need somebody from that lower area to do something for them, then they see it fits for their own opportunity or for their own benefits. So the so-called Pookies and Ray Rays that people like to talk about, which they refer to as the blacks from the inner cities, the black males from the inner cities at that, they'll call on those individuals when it benefits them. They'll use those individuals as a way to get certain things done. And sometimes, a lot of times, those things are illegal. So when they need them to go do something illegal, those people be willing to do it because they feel like this. Why not? I can go out there and do it and get away with it. And sometimes they get paid to do illegal things, and sometimes they don't. So when I see this, right, when I see people talk about Atlanta being the black Mecca, I'm like, okay, well, now you're falling under the illusion. It looks that way, it appears to be that way. But when you start to really break down what's going on and you start to see how the neighborhoods are and how the people act towards one another, when you see how blacks really act towards one another out here, then it starts to really, you start to really have questions. You start to second guess, well, is Atlanta really a black Mecca like people think? So get into the book about that. You can also check out so here's another book that I want you guys to check out. It's called Class Warfare in Black Atlanta. So the title of this book called Class Warfare in Black Atlanta by Augustus Wood. So in this book, he gets into about the classism between black people from middle class, upper class, and those in the lower class community, and what group of black people benefit from the black struggles, the black rights, etc. Right? So he breaks all of that down, gives some form of clarification behind it. Um, as a matter of fact, you can check out his YouTube interviews that he has done. So I can't post them on here because I don't want to get hit with the copyrights. But yeah, just type in his name, Augustus Wood, and Class Warfare in Black Atlanta. But otherwise, yeah, I'm still stuck on this fuck the street movement. I'm really stuck on it. I'm stuck on it for multiple reasons. And the things that I just listed is why I'm still I have the attitude that yeah, I'm against it. I understand why some people feel that way, but I'm against it at the same time. I'm against it only because it's not fair to those who are in the streets day in, day out. And we're not talking about those who out there just who are very deviant and who going around taking advantage of innocent people all day, but those who have nowhere to go, people who are homeless, people who have been abandoned by their loved ones, children who are orphaned, children who have ran away from the foster care system, they turn to the streets. It's not fair to those individuals. Now I can see if the attitude is towards those who are out here who have caused a lot of trauma, I can understand. So let me answer this question. Were you over there at Sinella's channel listening to? No, I was not over there at Sinella's channel. I don't know what the subject was about, and I don't know what lady you was referring to. So I don't know what the conversation was. I don't tune into Sinella's platform, unfortunately. So no. Yeah, but getting back to the point, getting back to the subject matter. Yeah, when you say that it does it's offensive to those who are trying to survive. Even if those individuals that's out there committing crimes, right? We have to figure out why. What caused them to turn to the life of crimes? What is the main cause? What's the main reason? Why are they being so destructive? And it's not something that happens overnight. So a person cannot just wake up one morning and say, "Hey, I'm going to commit a crime," unless they psychopathic. Now, if they psychopathic, then that's a different story. But an average individual is not just going to wake up one morning and say, "Well, I'm going to go to the streets and I'm just going to commit crimes just because I want to." There has to be some type of reason for them to do so. What is in the mindset of an individual to go and commit crimes or do deviant things? This is where psychology comes in, right? This is where the sociology comes in. So you're not going to get all the answers, but you can get a general idea of what would cause a person to do certain things that is out the ordinary. America was built on violence, and America is still built on violence. So what you see in our communities, right, in our broken communities at that, you'll see that this is a reflection of America. America is built on violence. And the main reason why is because of capitalism, because of this economic system. Because you have people who want power, wealth, and prestige. Again, you have people, or there are people that want power, wealth, and prestige. And the main way for them to do so is through the form of violence. So violence is the language to those who want the power, who want the wealth, and who want the prestige. So, of course, what is happening in the inner city is a reflection of this government. And again, a lot of times the violence is not what you think. It's not really happening in so much in the urban communities, but more so in the suburbs, as quiet as it's kept. It really happens in the suburb a lot more than it happens in the urban communities, as quiet as it's kept. Yeah, so excuse me, you guys. All right, so I was typing in the chat. But yeah, it's so easy to blame the hood, the streets, because people see that why those people are in the low class. So when those individuals represent the low class, right? It's easy to target those individuals. It's easy to target the community and say, oh, there's too much violence happening. There's too much crimes taking place. There's too much deviant behavior taking place. When as quiet as it's kept, you'll see a lot of this in the suburbs. But again, because the suburbs paint such an illusion, it paints such an illusion to where people don't even think twice. They wouldn't even think, oh, this area is known for a lot of drug activity or known for a lot of violence because there is the illusion. So as long as you go along with the illusion, then yeah, you're gonna think that certain areas does not appear to be this way, or they wouldn't have people carrying on certain type of activities. But anyways, that's the topic for tonight. That's the conversation that I want to talk to you guys about as far as the part two of F the Streets movement and getting into how capitalism basically destroyed communities, the inner cities, the urban communities, is whatever you want to identify it as. And basically this whole trap and why the blocks look very empty, why the blocks look like it's just undervalued. What and they're undervalued on purpose. The inner city is undervalued on purpose because of gentrification, because of the economic exploitation. So due to gentrification, it brings about economic exploitation. Or, well, let me reverse that. Economic exploitation brings about gentrification. Again, economic exploitation brings about gentrification. And you know what? That's part of the game. That's part of the game that is being played. So I also want to leave out with this. Please check out this book right here. It's called The Psychology of Money, Timeless Lesson on Wealth, Greed, and Happiness. So this is another book that I recommend people to check out. And also when we talk about epigenetics, psychology, and trauma, things like that, it didn't start with you. How inherited family trauma shapes who we are and how to end the cycle. So, and also a crisis of beliefs, investor psychology, and financial fragility. Make sure you guys put this book on your bucket list as well. And that's it. That's it. That's all. I thank you all for tuning in, watching. Um, Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, share the channel. And until next time, peace and power and elevation be to all of you. Shout out to Brother Kevin. Shout out to Mr. Evolution 77. And we'll talk later. All right. Peace.